Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about persuasion, which is my current thing because I have a class Saturday, the secret psychology of persuasion, or how to hypnotically persuade others. And it goes that lately I've been beating up because I've been thinking about two classes I wanted to do was the persuasion class because I find that shit fascinating and I love doing it. And it makes me study it. Number one. Number two is self-confidence. I like teaching stuff about self-confidence. And the reason I decided, after thinking about it and talking to a couple other people, to do the persuasion first and then the self-confidence, right? I could have done it the other way, but the reason is, people like to take persuasion classes to be a good therapist, a good salesman, a good manager, a better seducer or parent, whatever it is you're going to use. You have to persuade and influence other people, right? That's, but why do people fail? There's a lot of great courses out there. Some of my, people have had courses forever, right? And they can, you create a whole niche just teaching persuasion, as our friend Billy and I's friend Kevin Hogan, right? That's his whole shtick, right? Because he got away from hypnosis because hypnosis doesn't work. Then he teaches hypnosis in a persuasion model, but that's a different story. But what's kind of cool, so why do people take these classes, whether it's like Kevin's class or Cialdini's classes or all the books that are out there, or even Igor's classes, which isn't my favorite, but he's got a lot of material. But they learn it, they go and learn it, but then they can never implement it, it seems like, right? And we see that a lot in the therapeutic community and then the coaching community and a lot of the communities, especially in the therapeutic and the coaching community. And I think it boils down to that one thing, it may be the fault of us that teach persuasion and influence, is that it's a different slant on it, which is, rather than start teaching you these fancy hypnotic commands, and I know that you like me, and as we move to the future and all the stuff we can do with the language patterns, and the more you think about it, the more you want to do it, great. And that, to do your influencing externally, I think the missing ingredient is learning how to motivate and persuade yourself, influence yourself. Can you influence yourself? And the rule of thumb, it's a very simple test. Are there things in your life you've wanted to change for a while that you're cognizant of? Maybe your diet, maybe starting exercise, maybe doing something, learning some technology online, whatever it is, getting coaching, whatever it is, and you have not done it. If you haven't, you don't know how to persuade and or influence yourself. And because whatever you're doing is not working. First rule of NLP, if what you're doing doesn't, well, not first, but one of the rules of NLP is if what you're doing doesn't work, you have to do something else. If you've been struggling, which is a weird analogy in your mind, with your diet and you haven't changed it, whatever you're doing isn't working, right? Unless you're the United States government that can just pump another $1 billion into a program like the war on drugs, because we're almost there. The war on poverty, wait a minute, there's more poor people now than ever, let's regroup. But whatever it is, so if what you're trying to change, you can't change, maybe rather than take a class to motivate other people, take the class that part of it focuses on how do you motivate yourself? Because if you do not, I think what also sets you up is for that imposter syndrome inside. How can I help other people stop smoking or lose weight? And yet, as soon as the clients leave, I'm out back behind the buildings. I just had somebody tell me that. They're out back smoking a cigarette, and eating a donut, and then going back in the office and, working with other people. It sets up that imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud, right? And so can you motivate yourself? Do you know how to motivate yourself, right? Well, the first thing you have to do is begin to take one of those areas. If there's an area in your life you haven't made that change yet, look at it and say, okay, let's say it's changing your diet. Okay, well, what am I trying to do? Well, I'm using logic and intellect, you know. Well, that's not working, right? I'm giving the Dr. John's favorite, affirmations or incantations. Well, if it's not working, that's not working. What would work for you? You don't know yet. You haven't found the thing that makes it work for you. Is it a picture? Is it it's very simple stuff, but we forget to do it to ourselves. It's the paradox of knowledge, right? We'll become very flexible with other people, maybe helping them if you're going to help motivate them or coach them or make changes. But can you do it to yourself? Right? Can you find what drives you? What drives you? Is it a picture? Is it a sound? Is it a feeling? Right? And whatever you're trying to do, you need to persuade yourself in the way your own brain is actually going to listen to you to do whatever this activity is, or this change in your life, or the thing you want to do, right? Kind of like before we started recording, we were talking about music and how as you mature, you start saying, yeah, back in my day, we had real music. We had the real music. And whether it was the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s now, just heard was on the hit station on Sirius Radio, and they were playing classic oldies from 2003. Right? And, we're like, that's not. But if you're 22, that was like, you weren't really into anything yet, right? It's all new, right? So if you get stuck that way, and by the way, I think there's a physiological, psychological link to why we defend the music we were listening to when we were like in high school or early college, or maybe the military. Whenever you came of age, whenever you really developed your identity, whether it was high school, college, right after college, whatever it was. Well, that becomes part of your identity. That was the music you liked. And now you're going to defend that against the oncoming onslaught of whatever, right? Our parents, looking at the group here, our parents did it to us. We do it to our kids. Our kids will do it to their kids. If we stay alive 40 years, there'll be people going, God, in my day, we had real rappers and real music, not this crap, whatever it is then, right? In my day, singers could sing. They didn't have auto-tune. By the way, that's a statement of fact. But so it's like we defend it, right? So that's going on in our heads. So if you have that, and it's easy to get, and it's that I call it hardening of the thought, not just hardening of the arteries. You start get hardening of the thought, right? And living in Florida, boy, I see that everywhere. The people, drives me nuts down here sometimes, right? Bruce can relate to that. You're like, this isn't wherever it is. But so what can you do to change your thought processes? What would motivate you, let's say if it was music, to listen to the new music and appreciate it, to listen or look at like new way. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day at the gym. Because they said, wow, you've really changed how you look there, and because I don't know, lost about 6% now of my body fat. My weight's pretty stable, but I've lost a lot of body fat. And they go, well, what are you doing? I said, well, first of all, I'm not doing the same workout I was doing 5 years ago. I went and I got some programs and some coaching, and then I actually had to listen to the coaching, right? And that was my first block. This is actually going somewhere. It's like, I'll go and I'll buy a program, I'll get some good stuff, and then I'll fall into the paradox of knowledge and go, yeah, but I'm going to do it slightly differently. Right? So it's like the old, as we say in the recovering community, if I bake a cake and you like the cake, and I give you the recipe, and you decide to change the fucking recipe, don't come back and say the cake was not good. You did not follow the recipe. So, and I think as coaches, I need to think of that, right? Because I get frustrated when I'm trying to coach somebody or mentor someone and they don't want to do it. They're going to do it their way, right? And unfortunately, unlike Captain Billy, when you can't just say, well, this is my ship, this is the way it's going to go, or you can leave now. It's like, so what, can you motivate yourself? Can you motivate yourself? What would motivate you, right? And is it a feeling? Is it a felt sense? Is it the sounds in your head? And if so, what sounds motivate you? And maybe pictures, right? In my case, it was like pictures. I needed to see, first of all, I had to look at how I actually looked, and I didn't like the way I looked, right? And then I'm like, okay, how do I want to look, right? Well, what are these people doing to look that way? Well, they're doing what I'm doing. They're doing something different, right? So the pictures worked, right? And then it was a little bit of the felt sense, but it was how I talked to myself in my head, right? And what motivates me may not motivate other people, but you got to find this for yourself. What will influence you? Motivation, influence, persuasion, right? And the voices I have to adopt in my head are not very nice, right? The motivation, like, you can do it, go for it, da 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 da. Think how good you'll look. No, mine is like, you fat, ignorant pig. You need to change how you're thinking. You need to change your workout, right? And a little bit of external. Then I'll see people in the gym, and I'll be honest, I'll look at them and go, do you want to look like that? No. Then quit doing what they're doing. Right? That's the voices that work in my head. And in a drill sergeant voice, by the way, right? I need a drill sergeant over my shoulder yelling at me, right? Or a chief yelling at me about how to do it right, right? That it just works. Maybe it's part of my background, part of when I was made a major change in my life, and that motivation worked for me, and it still works. Now the other stuff may work for you. So what can you do to persuade yourself? So what's an area in your life that you're trying to change that you haven't changed yet, right? And so whether it's your diet, your exercise, in mine right now, what I'm working on is following some instructions for some coaching I'm getting to do my business differently, right? And actually doing what they're saying, right? And because again, if I want the results, if I want what you have and I'm willing to go to any length to get it, then I'm ready to take certain steps. I'll steal right from a 12-step program, right? And that's a great saying. If you want what we have and you're willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. And then, of course, they go down that path. But it's like, okay, this is how they're saying doing it, right? And I'm like, okay, we'll check. And it has to do about, changing my thinking, staying current, and doing some things. But I found this by accident, right, in my own head, because it's easy to take all these skills, persuasion, influence, NLP, hypnosis, all of these really cool skills, and always have it focusing outward. And every once in a while, you got to be able to turn it inward. And like, okay, are you where you want to be? Are you doing what you want to do? Right. And are, and again, it's keeping that flexibility of thought, flexibility of thought. And that's in my case. So what can you do to motivate yourself that, so is there an area of your life, you don't have to say what it is, we'll do a little discussion and I'll record it. So don't be too, of course, for me to say don't be too inappropriate, it's kind of like, pissing in the wind, I guess, it's like, that ship sailed like 20 years ago. But, so it's like, yeah. And so what are you doing now? And it might have worked. And what also happens, I'll shut up with this part, is we get stuck in the second part of the paradox of knowledge, is we want to do what worked before, even though it's not working, even though it's not working, right? What do they what do they say in the military? Unfortunately, most of your military leaders are fighting the last war, not the current war or the next war. They're using the, it takes them a while to get into the new thinking, Vietnam, they were still fighting World War II, right? It's like, it just didn't work, right? So can you be adaptive in what you're doing? So anyway, just a little bit of stuff. So, so are there areas in your life that you're trying to change, that you're stuck? And what can you do you think, to make those changes? It's also why we always say a coach needs a coach. A therapist needs a therapist, things, because sometimes you get stuck in your own thinking, and I know when I was changing my workouts, that's what I needed, right? As someone else to look at what I was doing and how I was doing it. So let me change the format. All right. So that's just a little bit about all persuasion starts with self-persuasion, self-influence, before you can really influencing, other people, so I'm done. Who has something? Hey, I got to save something for Saturday,
Yes.
Well, that was one. Hey, let me throw this in there. There's a guy, he's made a lot of money in the internet world, right? And the hypnosis world. I won't say his name. But one of his things, if you talk to him, and he'll tell you everything, right? He's pretty open about it, is, and this one, it's like, got stuck in my head, so I had to work through it, which is give away your best stuff for free. And then they will pay you a lot of money to get your other stuff. Don't withhold. He goes, that's the old style where it's like, oh, the next seminar, you'll get the, whatever the secret is. He goes, just put out some of your best stuff for free. He suggests you do a small class and then take the excerpts from your class that's your best stuff and just put it out there for free.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's like, wow, but this is my good stuff. Why do I want to share like the Bill Clinton technique, or which now is everywhere? But And he goes, always just throw in the tag, hey, if you want more, contact me at. Right. And the results speak for themselves. He's worth 8 figures, I think now, And, so, it's like, well, whatever he's doing is working, And so, before we started recording, we were talking about some of the internet marketers and how they think differently than most of us think. Right. So, and if you're going to play in that pool, and we're all playing in that pool right now, right? So you got to, adapt the technology of the winners. So anyway, I'll shut up now. Who has something that they're stuck, that they're not, well, whatever. So somebody say something.
Somebody say
I'm trying to overhaul everything. Like, it's not just one thing, it's many things. It is the transitioning from the narcissist layer to, like, I called you or spoke with you the other day and said, to getting the goal, the 100,000 plus contract for a big organization, and transitioning, because the CEOs, the HR people, they don't care if the employees are tired or being abused or bullied, even in the office. They have their HR goal, oh, we won't put up with this. Well, if they're making, several 100,000 or $1 million for your company, they will stay, the other person will leave, period, the end. That's how it is. And so I want to make money. I still want to help, obviously, victims, because in my world, that's where I was. So I want to overhaul my business approach and lifestyle, obviously my lifestyle too. That's where I am. And it's hard. I am trying to change my own thought on it's not hard. It is what we all do. We
Oh,
evolve,
yeah,
change,
yeah.
and grow. We evolve, change, and grow. Freaking hard to evolve, change, and grow.
It is. It's
Yeah,
called
yeah.
adulting, I think. Yes.
Well, and
But-
that's where that's where I found hypnosis helpful, because I go from like, this is gonna be so hard, this is gonna be so hard, to you enjoy this. Like, let's be honest, once you get
Oh, I
started,
love
it's
it.
hard to get the train moving, but once I'm started, I'm like, I really geek out about it and get excited. And so,
Yes.
I would say one thing that's like currently limiting me is, doing videos on YouTube and stuff like that, more because I think it's a double-edged sword. It's a positive and a negative, but one way that I sabotage myself is by being a little too hyper vigilant. I'm very concerned about safety, my personal safety, my family's safety, if I have my photo out there. And so I think that is one thing that's definitely like personally, that's something that I'm working with, is like, because it could be fun. I mean, I'm kind of saying, you say the same stuff over and over again in a lot of sessions anyway. I mean, you guys all know that, like, we're kind of preaching the same sermon, all the time. And we can make that into 10-minute blips that are digestible for people on the internet. And in my opinion, that's also a good way to maybe make passive income. You get so many likes on YouTube, they send you a check. But at the same time, I mean, I grew up with my mom having a stalker. There were times when we needed police protection and police escort to and from school, and my nanny had to figure out how to detect a bomb in the mail. Like, so it's real. And I'm a psychologist. I know people are mental and they don't think properly. And so, it doesn't, so that's where I'm kind of like, oh, like I want to put my stuff out there, but at the same time, I'm concerned about safety. You know what I mean? My mom was a public servant, and so she, like, that the protection was paid for. Us taxpayers paid for it. But I don't have $1 million to, I don't know, maybe by that point I will. But I mean, I don't know, but if we're just talking about our saboteurs, that's something I'm personally, so like whatever limiting, whatever we were talking about.
Well, one thing I'm changing is in my head is, and I had that, like, you don't want to get, it's the tall poppy syndrome a little bit too. You don't want to stand out too much, because then people will shoot at you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And, even though I know, like, it's not really that, and the people that are shooting at you are inconsequential generally, the ones that snipe online and stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about them. Yeah. It's the ones.
But it's a mindset of, my current demographic I'm going after are people that are doing good, that want to do better. I'm going to stop taking broken people and trying to help them get unbroken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds cold, but it's like, because also too, the research would say people that are doing good, that want to get better, will also spend money.
They'll invest in themselves.
Yeah, and the people that are broken, sometimes coming from the addiction world, God love them, and I love that world in a way, but it's like a lot of times by the time they reach out for help, they got no resources left to pay you or to go into treatment, or so it's like, I need to change, so what's the next level client?
That's
Bruce
true.
and I, he found this site. We got to find it again, but it was a brilliant thing for addictions, which it was pretty blatant. It's like, he only want to work with highly successful professionals.
Yeah.
And you had to answer this checklist, and some of it was pretty, you had to prove it, right? Because basically, I think he said he only wanted to work with high net worth individuals. That's all he had time for, right?
Good for
And
him.
I bet you behind the scenes, it's like, first of all, they're more motivated, right? And, they'll pay you and this other stuff. So it's like, interesting.
Yeah. Well, change is a constant. And if you don't like change, you're going to struggle. Life is easier if you can convince yourself as you were saying, Michelle, that change is going, it's part of the growth process. It's part of your evolution. So whether it's in business, your personal life, even changing your goals doesn't have to be a painful process. It's about how you see it. It's reframing. It's all the reframing. It can be fun or it could be hard work. Oh, anyway, and so, I feel like every 6 months I'm looking at myself and asking myself, do I want to keep going this direction? What do I want today? It might be different than what I wanted 6 months ago. And usually it is, because I'm a typical Gemini and, I'm all over the place and I want more than one thing at a time. So I have finally, I think, gotten through my head that change is okay and it can be fun. And sometimes it turns out better than you expect it. In fact, quite often it does.
Have you guys seen the commercial about about the guy that will coach you not to become your parents?
Yes, I
I
love that
love that.
commercial.
No, we don't need a line wrangler.
That is hilarious. They can build a
Hysterical.
psychologist on that. That is phenomenal.
But it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I keep watching that and going, God damn, I see how easy that is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I
That
love it. Like, and he just throws shit away. I remember that lady just, no, you don't need this, and throws, and she goes to, and he throws.
The pillows on the couch. There's no room to sit.
Yeah. Or what was wrong with the voicemail?
Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah, just
That's
text.
a good one. That's a good one.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, I think it's important for us to practice what we preach and not be hypocrites and be constantly working towards self-growth. And
yeah.
Or retire and move to the villages, and then just talk about the old days.
Not me. No. I'm finally getting selfish and actually living life for me and having fun, because I spent so many years being a caregiver, and it probably took 2.5 years for me to get comfortable with saying no to people
yeah,
and doing what I want to do. And I feel better. I think I'm healthier.
I think you are.
yeah, breaking free of that codependent chain is very
Ooh,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's freeing. You feel weight
I
lifted.
know. Yeah. It's okay to be selfish, huh?
It's beautiful. Well, and I like how you're saying the word selfish, not because that's a good thing, but because that's how we think of it at first. Does that make sense? Like, we're like, oh, I'm being selfish. And you're like, wait a second. No, like, you've got to put the oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
Or else there's going to be an unconscious adult in the aisle, and that's always helpful in an emergency. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's like, it's really cool. I had a friend once where I was just like, oh God, no, I have to go deal with this, because I was so used to just coming when called, and he was like, you don't have to do that. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. I don't. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? My mom was upset about something. I was like, great, now I have to go home and deal with it. No, I don't.
That's
She
right.
can take care of herself. She's a big girl.
Yep.
That's fine. It's like, yes. Thank you. You're right.
Yeah.
It's so nice. Yeah, to just say no. I'm not. No.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so
And I
life
feel
is
like if
good.
we feel it, I feel like the research has backed this up, right? That clinicians who don't practice mindfulness, they don't have the positive, like, their clients don't feel the effect of it. I think they've done that research and it's been proven, like, you need to practice what you're doing to people. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get training advice on how to be healthier when you see your trainer sitting there with a 500-pound belly eating McDonald's. Like, you're not gonna you know what I mean? Like, it comes off in your energy. I think if you tell your clients, like, this works, it's gonna be okay. I promise you this works. Keep doing it.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's like, it goes right back to the original adage of you have to love yourself before anyone else can love you.
I like seeing
Self-care.
fat chain smoking hypnotists, but
And why is that?
'cause-
Yep,
and there's a few that oh, good God.
don't even start.
Yeah, it's like, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what can you do to motivate yourself? Yeah, or influence or persuade?
You got to believe it first.
Well,
don't know, I
if
feel
what
like
you're
I
doing
would
is
go
not
straight to
working,
hypnotism.
then you got to do something else. If you don't believe it, then what do because then we're going to flip it over to self-confidence. Well, then it's like, how do you get self-confidence?
I would go straight to, at least for me, is I would go straight to someone like Charlie and just be like, I don't like what, I mean, and I've done that before and it's worked. It's like, there's what, and I think I did this with you, Michelle. So I'm like, I don't know why I can't stop picking my nails. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like something stupid. Like I'm annoying myself because I'm always picking my nails. And then, I go to do X, Y, or Z and it's painful. As I talk about my stuckness and my frustration with somebody who then works their NLP hypnosis magic, and I can be lazy and just listen to a recording every day and boom, it happens. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I would do. That's what I usually do. I'm getting sick of myself and then call somebody. Go ahead.
I find often I have to ask myself, what's the fear? What's the fear of doing what I believe I want to do that is
Right.
stopping me from doing it?
Yeah.
And, even as a ridiculous kind of thing, I'm a cyclist. So every so often I'll look for a new route and I'll go, okay, I'm going to try this route. And I go, what happens if I don't like it? I go, schmuck. What are you afraid of?
Yeah, you schmuck.
So it's like, I have to think to myself, okay,
Yep.
you got to change it. It's the fear of going, what if I don't like it? Try it. But that's like there's always a fear somewhere of stopping the change.
Oy vey, but I won't like. What if I don't like it?
Then you'll eat a bagel. It'll be fine.
Last night I had a dream that I was a hot dog chasing a bagel down the street. What do you think that
Oh my.
Wait,
Were you
we
Oscar
gotta do
Mayer?
more. What does that mean?
That is
meaning?
great. That was fun dream.
And were you the hot dog or were you the bagel?
He was.
He was the hot dog.
Oh,
The Wienermobile?
then tonight you will pretend you're going to dream you're a baseball player. Then the question is, are you pitching or are you catching?
Were you coach or hot dog?
Always pitching.
Since we've reached this level of humor, did anyone see Saturday Night Live?
No.
They did a riff on Kanye West and going postal, or was it high order on Jews? And the little news segment ended with Kanye saying that bagels are the devil's asshole. And,
Did say that.
and since I liked Bruce's item there on hot dogs and donuts. This is going back to one of the first Saturday Night Lives ever saw. I think it was Uncle Buck, and he was going to babysit a couple. Yeah, he says, "Oh, Uncle Buck, can you tell us more stories about Eddie Eel and Betsy Donut?"
Cool. All right.
That's funny.
Oh, but let me do my pitch, then we'll stop the recording. And this Saturday, the 19th, and if it's after November 19th, it's pre-recorded. There is the Secret Psychology of Persuasion, Hypnotic Persuasion Techniques. So if you want more information, reach out. And
Yes, I've got it on my calendar. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to watch it